6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1 minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you, Marty White. Good morning, folks. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Here's a headline: flooded cars could be on a lot near you. Coming soon. Well, actually, coming sooner than you think. We've got thousands of cars that were damaged by the hurricanes, both in Texas and here in Florida. Now, when I say here in Florida, we're located in the center of the automotive universe, so Car Clinic Studios are located on the Gulf Coast of Florida, so we dodged that bullet. But our Floridians in South Florida did not, and on the east and the west coast of Florida, both, there are a lot of cars, a lot of homes, and a lot of damage, and in Texas, and of course, Puerto Rico. Gosh, I just don't know what to say. I guess if we all have power and food and water and drink this morning, we're the lucky ones. Really, seriously. Okay, 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. This hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Folks, it's O Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts, and for a limited time, you get double points on over 250 items throughout the store. Double point offers on appearance items, oil specials, and more. If you're not a member yet, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today and sign up. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Your calls at 888-227-2546. 227-2546 when I come back.
O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Your vehicle a little sluggish, throwing off trouble codes? Take action with Berryman's B12 Chem Tool Fuel Additive. Using HEST, or High Energy Solvent Technology, Berryman B12 Chem Tool Fuel Additive dissolves gum, varnish, and carbon deposits in the fuel system to help restore lost power and peak performance. But don't take our word for it. According to Thomas B., your products are the most underrated products on the market. This stuff flat out works and you can't beat the price. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at berrymanproducts.com. That's berrymanproducts.com. Let's dive into another Car Clinic email. Dear Bobby, my vehicle has just gone out of warranty. It has 48,000 miles, and now all maintenance is my responsibility. Can you suggest a maintenance checklist? I'd like to keep this vehicle long term. Assuming your vehicle is about 4 years old and has just under 50,000 miles on the odometer, we suggest starting with the fluids. Think brake fluid, transmission fluid, and of course coolant. The cooling system is often overlooked. While coolant and cooling systems have evolved through the years, they still need service. Have the cooling system flushed and refilled with a proper antifreeze coolant for your specific vehicle, and inspect all belts and hoses. And don't forget the thermostat and radiator cap. Complete the system service with a new Stant Superstat and a new Stant radiator pressure cap. This is a great way to extend the life of all cooling system components and add reliability to your vehicle. Stant products meet or exceed OE quality in both fit and function. Learn more at stant.com. That's stant.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started, folks. 888 Car Clinic is the number. We have a new team player in the house, Hannah, and Miss Jan is going to be taking some time off on Saturdays, and she's still in the house. But also this morning we have Hannah, who is in and going to be taking not the place of, but taking that position over. Nobody can take the place of Miss Jan. So, and I say that because I know where my bread's buttered. She signs the check. She signs the checks. So when you call, Miss Jan will take your call at 888 Car Clinic and put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. And you can say hello to Hannah as well. Let's go to Missouri first. Well, our first caller already before the show even fired off, James in Missouri with a 97 Chevrolet Malibu. James, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Thank you very much, Bobby. You've been a part of my Saturday morning for 14 years now.
Gosh, time flies when you're having fun. When you're having car fun.
I'm having fun.
Good.
I'll get to the point. And also thank you to KREI for bringing it to me.
You're welcome. KREI is a great station forever. 12, like you said, 12 years or longer, actually 14 years. Anyway, how may I help you?
Well, what I have is a 3100, and it's starting to develop some issues. And I've learned from your show, when it gets too many, you better start doing for you all pile up. So the first one I would like to conquer today is the what do you call that light? The check engine light.
Yes, sir.
Came on. It would come on and go off, and I really didn't pay much attention to it. And now it started flashing, and I read in the manual that means it's got a misfire. But the odd thing is, and I'm somewhat of a mechanic, I used to rebuild automatic transmissions, but don't know much about engines. So when it gets around 2,000 RPM, instead of running rough and being low on power, and it gets terrible gas mileage, around 2,000 RPM, it comes to life like a two-stroke coming on a pipe. So I think it's losing its misfire around that RPM range. And if you shift into, that's why I'm holding it in first gear. And if you shift into second, of course, it comes out of that RPM range and you're back to 0.
Mm-hmm.
So I have replaced the front plugs, and the rear are hard to get to. And I have an extra car, the same car that I bought real cheap. I was maybe going to replace the spark plug, what do you call them?
Wires.
On the back of the engine.
The cables. You know, James, if it were
Not
mine.
the cables. Go ahead. I'll listen to you now.
The coil. How many miles on this 97 model automobile?
It just turned over 185,000. We bought it at 120. It's been a good car.
Ultimately, here are some common issues with those cars. Number one, cam sensor and crank sensor. And a cam sensor will cause that car to do lots of crazy things because it controls the timing of the engine. It knows where the timing is, and it sends a signal to the ECU, to the computer. So if it were mine, I would replace, and also another issue are coils and of course, spark plugs. So I would replace, if I were going to the trouble to get to the back of the engine, and you're right, you know, the front, that's an easy no-brainer. It is the back. And I'll tell you, not on your car, but on some of the Toyotas, you have to remove the intake manifold to get to the back side of the engine for valve covers and such. So if I were you, I would buy, and I would get new parts, of course. I wouldn't bring these parts off the other car that you have. I mean,
right.
You know,
I'm gonna do this the right way.
Okay, all right, good. And I have to recommend O'Reilly Auto Parts because they have parts people on the counter, because you're going to be a do-it-yourselfer, and I mean, you're not a novice. You've actually worked on transmissions before and rebuilt them, so you understand the mechanics of being a mechanic and technician. So I would recommend that you get there in Missouri a connection to an O'Reilly Auto Parts counterman. These guys know their stuff, and whereas I might handle, well, I don't count because I'm in the business, but whereas you might handle one repair every year or 6 months, these guys handle 50 or 100 repairs a day or more, and as a result, they know where the bleeding is. And when I say that, on the parts store, on the shelf, there may be 50 coils in an O'Reilly Auto Parts store because that's a high demand, but there may be only one remanufactured computer. You know what I'm saying here. So
yes, I do.
Parts stores have to stock what sells the best, and so to that end, that's why your local connection to a local counterman can be really valuable. And then when you get into a problem, James, and you're in over your head, I'm not saying that you're going to get there, but if you do, who do you think knows where the best shops are in the local town? These same people, they know. And how do they know? Because when shops buy a part and then that part doesn't fix the car, they have to try to return it, or if there's a bad part, they know which shops have more parts that are being returned, because there are some shops that do better jobs than others, and so they know. If you know, not to disc or trash any automotive service shop or dealership or anyone, but the bottom line, there are some of us that do a better job because we either care more or it's just in our lifeblood. Now, having said all this, and I'll move on, I would replace the coil packs and the wires and the plugs on that vehicle, and I'd also put a cam sensor, and more than likely you're going to be so far done with this problem, you're going to be beyond that. Any questions?
Yes, and thank you for asking. I'm going to make the effort to get back to the. I've been involved in it, but I'm going to change those plugs in the back of the engine. It's not too bad, but this other car I bought, the engine runs great and doesn't misfire. So I'm going to take the coil pack off of this car first and see if that makes a difference.
Okay.
I'm still going to buy a new coil pack.
All right.
And I'm going to redo the front plugs. It takes platinum plugs. I'm going to do that. It's got a problem. It's been breaking belts. And I noticed on the car that I'm calling about, the pulley that comes off the crank wobbles a little bit, and it doesn't ride true. It's a little further out than the other pulley. So I'm going to take that off. And so my next question is, how hard is the cam? I'm going to replace both the cam sensor and the crank sensor. How hard are they to get to? And when I got that pulley off down there,
I have a concern.
how hard is it to get?
I have a concern with you removing and replacing the pulley, because the crankshaft pulley is pressed on and requires a tool to get it off, and that it's a really simple job. But if you don't have the tool, so heart surgery is a really simple job if you've done it before.
I have pullers. I've already looked at it.
Okay.
I took the wheel off, and it's got 3 holes that are threaded. So I think it takes a puller with threads and the cone in the center. And I've done lots of automatic transmissions, so there's really not too much over my head. I just need a little guidance.
All right. Just remember that when you buy the new pulley, also get the new seal that the pulley rides in, because you're right there. I mean, you'd be duh. I mean, it's how we know that pulley's walking around, and we know that seal has an opportunity to leak inside. It's got 185,000 miles. So replace the pulley, replace the seals, and your sensors, and you can use your used coil packs as a test, and I think you'll be good to go. But call me back in a week or so and let me know how it works when you get to the other side, okay?
Yes, I will, Bobby.
All right.
And how hard is that crank sensor to get to? Where is it at? I would imagine. I mean, not the crank sensor, the cam.
It's on should be on the passenger side, on the left valve cover, on the front of the valve cover. That's best I remember. But there's so many engines that have so many locations. Those sensors are not hard to get to for you.
Okay.
Okay, my friend.
Very good.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. You have a great week, and I'll call you next weekend, let you know how it's going.
Okay, James, thank you so much. From Missouri now, we're going to go next to Nebraska and talk with Mildred. And I see that Tony's in the queue and Jess is in the queue. 888 Car Clinic, now's the time to get in. Miss Mildred, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Oh, well, good morning, Bobby.
Good morning.
How's everything with you this morning?
Absolutely. Really, really great. The weather's beautiful. Got a great weekend planned for a little cruise in my car. My car is just beautiful. I do intend to wash it, but if you were to see it, you would say it wasn't dirty, but it does have a little dust on it. So I'm going to have my terrific 2 hours of interaction with you and all the folks here on Car Clinic, and then I'm going to have lunch with my wife, and then I'm going to a birthday party. So that's a really great planned day for me. How about it with you in Nebraska?
Well, it sounds good to me, Bobby. It's a beautiful day here in Nebraska. The Cornhuskers are going to play football, and they're going to win their game, so everything's looking up.
Okay, can I quote you on
Bobby,
that? Can I quote you on the Huskers winning?
Oh, yes, certainly, yes.
Mildred, let me say this. I know you have a question about batteries, but we have a hard break coming up. So I don't want to get started on your question and then have to interrupt you or I be interrupted. So what we're going to do is stay right there, and when the break comes back, we'll come back to you. And Jess and Tony, you guys stay right there as well. Mildred, thank you so much. And folks, after this commercial break, we have to have them. I'm going to come back and take your questions at 888-227-2546.
I'm Bobby Likis with today's Vehicle Maintenance Spotlight, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's a crash course in brake parts before you have a crash. Master cylinders distribute brake fluid to wheels. Calipers and wheel cylinders convert pressurized brake fluid into stopping power. Brake pads and shoes protect calipers from friction caused by stopping. To be safe, include your entire braking system in regular maintenance. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for a wide selection of quality brakes. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermo-Quiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
In our latest Talking Tires segment, General Tires Senior Communications Specialist John Robinson explains why it's important to look at a tire's age when considering replacement, not just miles driven on the tires.
You have to be careful because sometimes you think, well, I haven't driven those tires too many miles, but if a car sits, you've got flat spotting, you also have dry rot or cracking to the sidewalls of the tire. Just because there aren't a whole lot of miles on the tire doesn't mean that the age, the heat, and the sun haven't negatively affected the tire. So you want to examine the tire, kind of figure out how old the tires actually are, and go from there.
Introducing the Grabber HD, a heavy-duty, all-season tire for commercial light trucks and vans that delivers long, even tread life, durability, confident traction, and handling. The Grabber HD features sidewall curb guards to help protect the tire from potential sidewall abrasions, and a rigid outer shoulder provides stability and handling under loaded conditions. For more, go to GeneralTire.com. That's GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And thanks for tuning in today, folks. Every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, you can catch us right here on your local AM and or FM radio stations, and also at Watch Bobby Live. That's watchbobbylive.com. I'll wave at the cameras. HD, full HD. There's a chat room there. Jonathan monitors that, so if you're in the chat room, say hello to Jonathan. I did mention flooded cars and coming to a lot near you. I'm going to share with you a few tips a little bit later on in the program as time allows, but let's go back to Nebraska. We're talking with Mildred. So Mildred, you have a 2016 Chevrolet Impala, and you have a battery question. I'll turn the mic to you. Welcome back.
Okay, that is it. I don't have a problem right now, but I heard the other day that these newer cars with all their bells and whistles, they're drawing energy from the battery while they're parked. So you can go on a vacation and come back after your car's been parked for 10 days at the airport and your battery's dead. Isn't that true?
No, it's not. But, well, yes. Well, the first part's true. All cars, even older cars, but specifically the newer cars, do have a parasitic draw on the battery. It's roughly about 200 millivolts. That's where it should be. So while it's true that a battery will lose voltage, and I can tell you this, an average battery in an average car today will lose about 25% of its charge in 1 month of static park. 1 month. So you still have 75% of energy in the battery. Now, if you lived in a cold climate and it was freezing temp, then you lose 50% of the battery. So if you parked a car, in North Dakota in the wintertime in cold weather, and so it would take 50% of your battery power, and if you left it for a month, you have 20%, 25% left, so you can do the numbers. But that's a kind of a drawing a scenario that most people have their car in a garage. Getting back to your specific question, 10 days will not make any difference on any new car or newer car or any healthy car's charging system if you have a healthy battery. And therein lies the real sticky point or concern that I have, because so many, and we have a lot of customers that really don't drive 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 miles a year. I mean, I put about 8,500 miles a year on my car, and I drive 3.7 miles from my home to the studio on a daily basis. So I know that my battery is always sort of on the run. It's always a little bit below fully charged because I don't drive the hour that it would take. And as I understand it, it takes 6 minutes to put back in a battery the energy that you use to crank the engine over one time. So if you start, stop with the main battery, then your battery is going to be on the low side. And then if you were to park it in an airport for an extended period of time, you might have a problem. So does that help you, and does that address the questions or concerns that you had?
Yes. Now I can relax. I don't have to worry about that.
No, not at all.
I do. My car sits here, like 3-4 miles every day here or there. But then about every 10 days, I get in the car and I drive a couple hundred miles.
Well,
so
you're in good shape. No worries. Just remember this, because you have a 16, a newer car. When you take that car in for oil change, like 5,000 miles is what it should be, 5 to 7,500 miles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Understand, and I want to turn you and everyone listening, understand you're really not going in for an oil and filter change. You're going in for a vehicle inspection that happens to include a new oil batch and filter. And the reason is that you can fast in and fast out oil and filter change in 10 minutes, but you cannot properly inspect a vehicle in less than 30 minutes. And that's the only time the vehicle gets inspected for all intents and purposes at its oil change. So that is it is a culture that we've had to create, and education that we've had to educate our customers. And so whenever I have that opportunity, and quite candidly, the fast in, fast out lube places think that I'm tossing them under the bus. I'm not, because if you're going on a trip and you need new oil and filter, at least your engine gets new oil and filter. So by all means, if time doesn't allow you proper time to get your car inspected, change your oil and filter before you go on a trip. But don't think that you're taking care of your car if you normally, as a matter of fact, have a fast oil and filter change every time you change the oil and filter, because when you get to 30, 40, 50,000 miles, you're going to have a problem that could have been caught by an inspection 20,000 miles or 10,000 miles before. Does that make sense? You understand where I'm going? I'm passionate about it. Yeah.
I always take my car back to the dealer. When I come in, they roll out the red carpet and they call me by my first name.
Well, that's because you're a first name lady. So I got it. You've got a great relationship, so I'm not worried about you. I'm sure glad you called. So have a great week. Thank you, Mildred.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go from Nebraska to New York. And folks, I can take your calls. Miss Jan is actually training Hannah this morning, so let's put them to work. 888-227-2546 in New York. Jess, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Fantastic up here, man. Beautiful day today. So
here as well.
I think I may have talked with you about this car before. This is the long-lived 1994 Plymouth minivan, 4-cylinder, 5-speed, 238,000 miles, runs like a champ.
That's amazing.
Great car. Bobby, I actually found the original owner who owned it out in Utah.
Good gracious.
And he told me the story of it traveling around, and I had the books with it and everything. And he goes, "What are you calling about?" And I told him. He goes, "That thing's still running?" I said, "Oh yeah, it's in my garage."
Well, a lot of that. There were some inherent problems. The transaxles in a Voyager and a Town & Country. That was a common problem for a transaxle, a transmission to go bad. But the reman units were actually superior to the factory unit, and so as Chrysler made those cars, each year they used, that van was made so long, and the Chrysler Voyager, the Plymouth Voyager, that created that whole segment, that market. They owned that market for a long time, and now, of course, I think the Honda Odyssey gets rave reviews. I think they're a little strange looking, but you know, it's in the eye. The beauty's in the eye. You know that says. But what can I do for you?
So I can't guarantee that this is the original intake manifold on this car. It has 2 ports. Now it's got a throttle body injector thing on the back of it there.
Yes, sir.
Sits behind the camshaft cover.
Right.
It's got 2 ports down there that are 1/2-inch, 5/8-inch hose fittings.
Okay.
Now I remember cutting the hoses and taking that off of there. I cannot for the life of me think what those things did or went to. I'm thinking maybe I even just had them jumpered together, just in a U shape. I see no purpose for them at this point. I've got my hot water lines running up to the control valve for the heater. That functions properly.
Mm-hmm.
Got my inlet outlet to the radiator. So I've had to guess that, and the vacuum booster line is connected to that manifold. It's over there in place. So I've got brake vacuum. I don't know what else I could have gone to. Maybe it came off of the header or something.
Are those ports open? Are they?
They were. They were.
Open to what? Are they open to intake manifold?
Well, they were just. Yeah, they just go.
But I mean,
you can stick a pencil. You can stick a pencil through it, and it goes right into the plenum.
Well, of course, if that's the case, when then that's a full vacuum. So one of them goes directly into the plenum. So we know that bypasses the throttle plate. So we know that when you fire the engine up, it'll race up because that's going to give it false air, and it doesn't care if the throttle plate's open or not. It's going to race up because that's what it does. It needs air to run. So we know that port is a vacuum port that is there for a reason. What about the other port that you're talking about? Is it exposed?
Well, when I had that manifold off there and cleaning it up and getting ready to put it all back together,
right?
I looked at that thing and I thought, I don't understand. At first, I thought, well, maybe they were water hoses, but I thought, well, it can't be water hoses. It'd be sucking water into the plenum.
Okay.
So I'm thinking maybe they were smog pumps.
Yeah.
But why would there be 2?
Well, there would not be a smog pump. A smog pump draws filtered air from the air box and then pressurize it to the exhaust. So it's not a smog pump. It could be something to do with a positive crankcase vent system, and it could also be something to do with the emissions with regard to a closed evap system. Okay. All right. Wait. I have one more question. You've told me that one port is open to the intake plenum. Where does the other one go?
Oh, they're side by side. There's one forward and one aft. Now I've got one line that comes off my crankcase breather, the crankcase cover rather. The valve rocker cover, and it goes right to the carburetor box, air filter box.
Right. So it draws filtered air. Yeah, it draws filtered air into the crankcase so that the PCV can have a place. Otherwise, you'd have a closed system, and it's not designed to have a closed system. So that's not an issue there. Here's what I recommend. In the sake of time, mainly because I don't have a diagram. I don't use any computers or anything when I'm talking. I need to look at a diagram of that. So this is something we may have to address offline. In the meantime, you could connect a hose from one of those pipes to the other pipe, and then for all intents and purposes, it's closed off.
That's right. Maybe that's what happened. It was so long ago when I took it apart, I've forgotten, Bobby.
Hey, yeah. Well, it's been so long since I've seen a 94 plenum as well. But that's an interesting question, though. As we solve this problems, and we're going to take other calls. But Jess, I will. Now you've piqued my interest. So first of the week, when I get back into the studio, I'm going to look at the diagrams and determine where that is. And so I'm going to do this. I'm going to put you back on hold. I'm going to ask Miss Jan to get your email address. And then we'll both communicate offline. And then next week, folks, you can tune back in. We'll expose the truth of where these hoses go in the intake manifold of Jess's car. In the meantime, let's go to we're going to go to Tony next. But Tony, you stay right there because we've got this break coming up. Folks, plenty of time. This is the longest segment of this hour coming up. Now is the time. 888-227-12 2546 when I come back. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. The next time your car needs a new battery, choose one with power frame grid technology inside. It's engineered with confidence to be 66% more durable than other grid designs and provide you with true strength every time you need it. Look for power frame on the outside for true strength on the inside. Visit Advanced Auto Parts or CarQuest for a battery with power frame grid technology, or learn more at powerframe.com. That's powerframe.com.
It's Mosquito Awareness Week, and Dynatrap has 3 simple steps to help you stay safe from mosquitoes this summer. 1. Remove standing water in planters and other places water can collect. 2. Wear light-colored long-sleeve clothing and apply repellents when outdoors. 3. Inspect and patch holes in screen doors and windows. Head to Dynatrap.com/Mosquito Week for more tips and tricks on keeping mosquitoes at bay all summer long.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Mr. Jan will take your call at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. Let's go to Tony. Tony has an 05 GMC Sierra. Tony, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, Bobby, how you doing?
I'm fine. Yourself?
I'm doing just fine. It's a great day here in Ormond by the Sea, Florida. Hurricane's gone. The messes are still here, but everything's looking good.
That's great. You have power, so all is well.
Oh, yeah, I left town for 10 days. I don't stay around here for these things anymore.
Well, I'll tell you.
I come back when the power comes back on.
I'll tell you, we had Ivan, as you know, in 04, and I stayed. I decided to stay, and my wife and her mother at that time she was in her 80s or late 80s at that time, and then Dennis came along I forget now, a month or 6 months or something later, or 2 months later. And so my wife's mother and I said, well, we're going to ride this one out too. And my wife said, well, not me. And she went to Atlanta. So it reminded me, so now if there's a storm off the coast of Africa, my wife goes to Atlanta.
I grew up in Florida. I've been through many, many, many hurricanes, but I'm just too old for this stuff anymore.
I hear you.
I put my truck in the garage, and I jumped on my motorcycle, and I rode the mountains of North Carolina.
Wow, that's a God's country up there. Hey, that sounds great, Tony. What can I do for you?
I recently had a problem with the instrument cluster in my truck.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was the speedometer went haywire.
Right.
Everything else was working fine, but the speedometer was real intermittent. Sometimes it would show me going 30 miles an hour if I was going 70 on the interstate.
Right.
So my mechanic, who I trust completely, very good,
great,
told me that the instrument cluster was bad and that I could just send it off and they'd rebuild it and bring it back. Well, I have a friend of mine who has the same truck, and he had a problem, and he had a place in Buford, Georgia, who rebuilds those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to be up there in Georgia 5 or 6 weeks ago. So I went to the place in Buford and pulled the instrument cluster out of my truck while I was sitting there in the parking lot, and I took it in and gave it to them, and I paid them about I think $20 or $30 extra, and they had it back to me that afternoon. So I stuck it back in the parking lot and drove around, and I took it right back to them within an hour or so, because I'm very cognizant of my instruments in the truck and what they read.
Right.
I'm a private pilot, and I used to have a little airplane. When you fly around in a little single-engine airplane, you're real cognizant of what your instruments are saying.
Yes, I'm with you.
You're looking for any change at all.
Yes.
And I noticed when I got this thing back, I've had this truck 7 years. I bought it used, but I've had it for 7 years, and the instruments, the ammeter gauge, the oil pressure gauge, I've always read exactly the same for 7 years. Now, when I got the instrument cluster back, the speedometer worked perfectly, but my ammeter gauge used to run about a half a needle past 14, always. It would come up a little bit at startup, and then it would settle in at about a half a needle width past 14.
Okay.
Now it's about 13 and a half. It comes up to about 13 and a half at startup, and then it settles down to about 12 and a half. That's the first question. Does that indicate any kind of problem to you?
Well, the first thing that I would do, given the fact that given the fact of your mindset, and I have a story to share with you later on if I have time, but given your mindset and your expertise and the fact that you're so aware of the gauges, which being a pilot with a single engine plane you best be, the first thing that you should do is to take a common voltmeter and compare the voltage reading at the battery terminal. And the battery terminal, even under full load with headlights on and any defoggers that are on the windshield or back glass in the cars, your truck doesn't have that probably, but it could, and the air conditioner on blower and the headlights on max, you should always maintain 13 plus. So it could be 1302, but I prefer 13.2 to 14 volts at a fast idle. It's say 1,500 RPM or 2,000 RPM. That's at the battery. So if your battery shows 13.5, which it probably will, and then the gauge in the dash shows 12.5, then that's a calibration, and I don't know what they do when they rebuild, and those companies are really good. There's another one that we used to use that was actually being promoted on air here, Module Masters, and then they went away, but I still use them, whether or not they pay me for promotions or not. But they really did a great job, and they still do a great job. So this company that you went to knows those products. But I would compare the true voltage at the battery with what the gauge is reading, and I would not be comfortable with the 12.5 reading if I got 13.5 out there, because you know how and what it used to read to start with, and I'm sure that they could go back through and tweak that circuit, or at least compare that circuit to another circuit. What's your second question?
Right. Well, they were real nice. When I took it back in, the girl at the desk got me on the phone with the technician that worked on my part.
Wow.
And he said it could be a calibration problem, and if it didn't work itself out, to bring it back in, and they would do it on the bench right while I wait, and recalibrate it and so forth. So the other question is with the oil pressure gauge. When I bought this truck, I was alarmed when I drove it off the lot because the oil pressure was so low at idle. And it has the Duramax diesel engine in it, and I've since learned that those engines don't carry a whole lot of oil pressure at idle. When I first started up, I think that's true. When I first started up, the oil pressure comes right up to about 60 pounds. and then and it drops down to idle around 30 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
But after about 5 minutes of driving, when it warms up a little bit, the oil pressure at idle drops almost to zero, almost in the red now. That's the way the gauge is reading now. It used to drop down to around 10 pounds. So the oil pressure gauge is reading considerably lower than it did before I had that rebuilt. But it was always low at idle to about 10 pounds. When I accelerate and take off, the oil pressure gauge comes right back up. And after it's warmed up, it comes back up in the, 45-pound range, somewhere in there probably. And at the highway speeds, it maintains right around 35 to 40.
Okay. Having said that, does the voltage come up, or does it like that 12.5 even at 60 miles an hour?
The voltage regulator remains pretty steady at 12.5 once it settles in there.
Here's what we know. And here's what we know. So let's look at what we know first. We know that you had a speedometer issue and that they rebuilt the speedometer and they replaced some, whatever it is, boards and those sorts of things that need to be recalibrated. Right. We know that we have a calibration issue with the voltage. That same calibration could be a grounding rheostat or whatever they use in those digital worlds. And so I would, and we know that the engine hasn't changed, and you knew what it was in another life or pre-repair of the cluster. So I'm going to say that for me, I wouldn't be concerned, but I would get the cluster back to these folks and have them to recheck it, but also let them know that you've got a concern about the oil pressure as well, so they can make sure they check all of the gauges. That's what I would do. And ultimately, and this is a little more involved in trouble, so I'm not going to recommend you do this. Ultimately, just like it was easy for you to go to the battery and check the voltage at the battery, it's not just as easy to take the oil sender unit out of the diesel and put a real gauge in to see what kind of real pressure you have. So because you have to go buy the gauge and it's down there by the hot exhaust manifold, or no telling where the oil sender unit is. They hide those things on a lot of those engines. So I would let the oil pressure. I'd park that issue. I'd get the speedometer. I would report that to the folks, and I'd send the cluster back and have the cluster, rechanged or recalibrated first, and see what that does with the oil pressure. And then I would, if the gauge was okay and the voltage was okay, and the oil pressure was still low, then I would check the real pressure real time with a real gauge. You got it?
Right. Does that sound reasonable to you with those engines, that they don't carry a whole lot of oil pressure at idle?
Nope. I don't. I see. The only engine that I know that used to carry low oil pressure, Mini Coopers, they look like a wind-up toy. They have low oil pressure, and the higher you wind them, the tighter the engine. The pressure comes up like RPMs. Most engines will carry 30 psi at an idle. However, the older Mercedes, anything in the 15 psi range was okay. And just for you to know, and folks, for you out there, when you see a low oil light, not low oil, but low oil pressure light come on, that is somewhere in the 5 to 8 psi range. So if your diesel hasn't had a light to come on saying low oil pressure, even if it had a gauge, it would have a warning. It should have a warning. Then I don't know that I would be worried about it. But I really don't know the answer to that. However, I don't see any reason why it would have 10 to 12 psi of pressure at an idle. But it's possible. I just don't know the nature of that beast. That make sense? Okay.
Makes sense to me.
All right. Before I let you go, I want you to do this. I want you to Google, a friend of mine, a dear friend for many, many years, flew a Cessna 210 single engine. He dead stick landed that plane 3 times in his lifetime.
Ditched in the water 3 times?
No, dead stick. No motor.
Dead stick landing.
Yeah, safely.
Right.
The last time he dead stick landed that plane was on 56th Avenue in Tampa, Florida at 8 p.m. at night, flying under guide wires and between traffic on 56th Avenue, and never hurt anyone and landed it safely with no engine.
I went to school in Tampa. I know that area.
Well, if you'll Google,
that guy's an incredible pilot. I'd put him right up there with Sully Sullenberg.
Yes, sir. Yeah, he's fantastic. Okay, Tony, thanks for calling and check in. Let me know when you get to the other side. I'm just curious now about your gauge and your oil pressure, and thanks for sharing your adventure with us.
I will. I'll get back with you after I get this looked at again.
Sounds great. Take care. Let's go to Paul. And Paul, thanks for holding somewhat. And folks, we still have some time in this hour. 888-227-2546. Paul, you have a 2012 Ford Fusion, and you have gas mileage issues. You say, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Welcome to, thank you, Bobby. I haven't seen you since Astro Lincoln.
Wow.
On Garden Street and Pace Boulevard. Listen, this car was getting in town, wife's driving it, 18 to 20 miles per gallon.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, I looked at the indicator that gives you the mileage, average mileage on the speedometer, and it's dropped to 13.4. Without any indication as to anything wrong. The car runs fine, operates fine, shifts. It's got a 6-speed automatic, it's a Ford Fusion Sport. It's got the 3.5 engine.
What?
But I don't understand. And I called the local dealer, and they don't seem to be concerned about it, don't care, actually.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but here's what I would recommend, Paul. A reset, you can fill up or not. Just reset the trip. Reset the trip set.
I've done that 3 times already, and it still comes back after she drives it for a day or two. I check it again, and it's reading anywhere from 13.4 to 14.
Well,
and that's a 25% drop.
Yeah,
and
it is.
With no indicator.
It is, but here's the challenge that I have with that. See, I check every tank of my car. Every tank, and have since I purchased it in 2013, 2012 actually, November. And my car as today, so this morning on the way to work, I checked the MPG, and it's getting 16.4. And it is a 4-door luxury car. And I'm getting 16.4 on this particular tank. Now, granted, I've made several trips from Davis Highway downtown on I-110, and on that leg I get 25 miles per gallon, and then from here to the house I probably get 12 miles per gallon. So collectively I'm getting 16.4, and my car will average 15 to 16 in town, and it gets 26.7 at 80 miles an hour on the highway average. And so now, having said that, I find that depending on how many traffic lights that I get caught at, and of course how heavy I drive it, and how short the distances are that I'm driving that car, dictates the MPG. So I wouldn't be concerned about the 13.5 figure unless your wife has, in other words, if she drives across the Bay Bridge, if she drives from here to Milton, if she drives any legs, but I can tell you, start, stop, I don't see how cars get any better than 13 or 14 miles per gallon. You have to have a combination. So what I would recommend for you is, I would check 2 things. I would check the temperature of the engine to make sure the engine is running where it always has, in the middle of the gauge or whatever. Because if for some reason, and this is a 2012 model car, if the thermostat, and I'm going straight for the hot spot here, which is could be hot, not hot. If the thermostat stuck open, it would immediately cost you 5 miles per gallon. Immediately on any car, because the computer would say, "Oh, the engine is cold. It needs more fuel," and the O2 sensor would say, "Don't give me the fuel." So between the O2 sensor trying to lean the engine out and the cold engine thermostat trying to fatten the engine up, you got a conflict there. And I have a conflict with going any deeper in this conversation because this is the end of this hour. Hey, folks, what a great time. Join me again at the top of the next hour for Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Folks, recently we had a 4-cylinder 2014 Nissan Frontier in the shop. The customer said the vehicle wasn't running well, nothing specific, but fuel mileage was down and the vehicle had lost its zip. As he explained, it's a manual transmission, so I know what it should feel like, and it's just not right. The suggested maintenance and ignition service were up to date, and there were no trouble codes. So what was the problem? The answer lies with today's complex engines. While the maintenance schedule was on time, engines today are prone to carbon deposit formation, and fuel system cleaning is a key piece of the puzzle. Professional fuel system cleaning is an option, but a less expensive alternative is the use of a pour-in fuel system cleaner. We use Berryman B12 Chem Tool in the shop. It features Berryman's proprietary high-energy solvent, or HEST technology. We poured a bottle of Berryman B12 Chem Tool into the Frontier, and after just 1 tank of gas, MPG improved and the vehicle regained its zippiness. For more information, drive to BerrymanProducts.com. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's vehicle protection program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We also have our 888 Car Clinic number open for you. So Miss Jan will take your call. In fact, we have a new team player in the house, Hannah, and she's under training this morning. So Miss Jan's sharing with her little intricacies of the digital interface. It's the Gentner system that we use to take your calls and then put you on the screen so that I can see who's calling and from where. That's really about all that I know. If I have George from New York calling about a 70, 80, or 90, or a 2000, Chevrolet, then that's really all that I know. And that, for me, I enjoy that because I like the spontaneity. So if you have a car question, now's the time to get in. 888-227-2546. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by Power Frame Grid Technology. Power Frame Grid Technology engineered with confidence. Power Frame Grid Technology is designed to minimize corrosion, which leads to battery failure. You can trust the battery with Power Frame Grid Technology for true strength, start after start. You can learn more at powerframe.com. What is PowerFrame? The PowerFrame grid is a stamped grid that is an upgrade from the old-fashioned book mold. Fantastic design is truly state-of-the-art from PowerFrame. Go to powerframe.com for more. Back with your call to 888 Car Clinic when I come back.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts, and your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with PowerFrame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with PowerFrame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with PowerFrame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with PowerFrame technology inside. Look for PowerFrame on the outside and know there's true strength on the inside.
Super Chips performance tuners are a great way to increase vehicle power without even turning a wrench. But don't take my word for it. Four Corners 4x4 owner Jason Kaminsky runs Super Chips flashpack programmers in a number of different vehicles. According to Jason, there are a lot of choices in aftermarket tuning, but we've never had a reason to look outside the Super Chips family. And now, through October 15th, enter the Power Up and Win promotion. You could win wheel tire packages, cold air intakes, and other great prizes. Learn more at superchips.com.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this hour. 888 Car Clinic is the number for you to dial. Miss Jan will take your call. Well, actually, I think Hannah. I think they're both in there. I can see them from here. They're both just anxiously awaiting, and it'll be interesting to see who answers the phone. I would imagine Hannah would be the one for you, but Miss Jan's right there. You're not sharing the same seat, are you, folks? No? Oh, you are? Well, you're right there, right? I mean, I see Jan, I see Hannah, I see Fabio, and then Jonathan's right around the corner. What? Let her say something. Oh, that's great. Thank you, ma'am. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. You know that there have been a lot of cars that were damaged by the hurricanes. Irma, according to a report by Cox Automotive, people are going to have to replace up to like 400,000 vehicles. And that's an analysis. I mean, Irma ripped through Florida with the high winds and the storm surge and extensive damage. I mean, obviously to homes and businesses, and we're all aware of that. But Cox Automotive, the parent company of Kelley Blue Book and Auto Trader, estimated that South Florida residents lost between 130,000 and 200,000 vehicles. including the entire Sunshine State and neighboring states to the north, Irma took out approximately 200 to 400,000 vehicles, not including new vehicles waiting to be sold. Now, by comparison, Hurricane Harvey destroyed 300 to 500,000 vehicles in the Houston market, and this is based on the Cox Automotive estimates. The damage caused by Harvey and Irma is expected to hurt new vehicle sales in the short run, and dealers in Texas and Florida are working with fewer selling days after closing during the storms. AutoNation, for example, the largest car dealer in the country, closed nearly all of its stores in Florida, and a spokesperson told Fox Business that AutoNation planned to reopen those stores, soon. I share this with you because the Floridians shopping for a replacement vehicle should brace for higher prices. So folks in my state of Florida, you need to know that even though automakers are capable of moving inventory into a higher area of demand, in other words, if they're dealers in Georgia, they can ship their cars to Florida to help meet that demand. The supply will be constrained for certain times, and that'll drive up prices. This information is according to Jonathan Smoke, who is the chief economist for Cox Automotive. So I share that with you because soon, what will happen with these 400, 500,000 cars out of Texas and the 200 to 400,000 cars in Florida? It's according to what the information that I understand and have gleaned recently from trade sources and from media in the automotive world, up to 50% of these cars will make their way back to the market. So how is that possible? And how do you protect yourself when you're buying a used car? Because going forward for the next, 6 months, probably for the next 6 months. So if you're in the market for a car, you better do your homework and purchase from a reputable dealer, so you can ensure the car you buy isn't refurbished one from the recent storms. So I want to help you with and give you some information on how you can check to make sure that you're not getting one of these cars. In the meantime, now's a great time for you to call in 888-227-2546. The information that I'm going to be sharing with you comes from the Better Business Bureau, and also you can go to BBB, Better Business Bureau, bbb.org/scam-tips, SCAM tips. That's bbb.org/scam-tips to get this information that I'm going to share with you, because you do not want to end up with an automobile that has been refurbished and then you drive it for 2 weeks or 2 months and you take it in, especially with the electronics for today. The electronics on an automobile, you don't repair those. You replace those. And the replacement of electronics on a car that's been flooded far exceed the value of the automobile. And to that end, recently, a new Corvette owner ran over something in the road and cracked the frame. And there was about a 6-inch crack in the frame. The cost to replace the frame would have been paid for by the insurance company. However, General Motors said the integrity of that frame, and understand that the frame on a Corvette is an aluminum work of art. And to replace that frame, it's just not doable, not in the open market. If you were building a new Corvette, you got a new frame, but to repair the frame that's been damaged, so this car was replaced. The owner got a new car in place of his new Corvette, and they're going to take that Corvette and they're actually going to take that vehicle and part it out. So it definitely has a value there when it's parted out. 888-227-2546 is the number for you to call. So here goes. Here's some tips to help you spot flood-damaged vehicles. Number one, you check a vehicle's history record based on the VIN number. And you can do that with Carfax.com. That's one website where what has been reported on a vehicle can be reviewed. You check the car dealer's profile first. the BBB business profile for their review and or a complaint history with the automobile and with their sales. So that's number one, and number two, check the business profile of the dealership or the new car, used car dealer, and then get a vehicle history report based on the VIN. Carfax is one of those numbers. Also, you can have the car inspected by a mechanic that you trust. That is absolutely essential that you do that. Number four, ask to see the title of a used car. Check the date and place of transfer. This is important to see if the car came from a flood-damaged area and if the title is stamped salvage. Look at the title. If you're looking at a used car, ask the person selling the car, whether it's an independent or a dealership or a private owner, could I see your title? And if that title says salvage, then you'll know that it's a salvage car. You don't want to buy the car, or at least you'll be forewarned. Number five, check all the gauges on the dashboard to make sure they're all accurate and look for signs of water. Well, I'm not sure I quite agree with that. You don't know if the gauges are accurate or not. So you wouldn't see water in the speedometer cluster because if that were the case, it would have been part of that. So I'm not sure I agree with this particular, but certainly you want to work everything in the car that's electronics to make sure that, hey, this car has the backup lights work, the turn signals work, the heat defroster works, all the blower speeds work, all the little electronics, the door locks work. Each individual door lock works from its respective switch, and so on and so forth. Number six, and I got ahead of myself because number six was to test the equipment, including the lights, the wipers, the turn signals, the sound system, the heater, air conditioner, to make sure they all work. Number seven, flex some wires under the dash. I don't know if you could do this, but to see if they bend or crack, since wet wires become brittle upon drying and can crack or fail at any time. I'm not sure I agree with that either. Understand now, this is information from a BBB, and I don't know who wrote this page, but wires that get wet, really, for the most part, you don't know how would you know that if a wire was flexible or not? So while I don't agree with all this, I'm going to give you this information yet, and then I'll share with you what I know from my experience. And number one, if a wire has been wet and it's dry now, you can't tell if that wire's been wet or not. And you can move it all you want to. Wetting a wire that's insulated is not going to make the wire brittle. So I disagree with that point. Okay, let me scratch that point. All right, let's move on. This one I do agree with. Check the interior of the trunk and glove compartment and beneath the seats and dashboard for signs of mud, rust, or water damage. This may well be the most important point of a flood-damaged car. And if the interior really looks great and it has new carpet in it, and look at the seat, look at the hardware that holds the seat down, because the nuts and the washers will rust. And if they're brand new, they won't be those same type of hardware that the factory used. You want to look for faded and stained upholstery and carpeting. Carpeting, as I said, it may be replaced. It fits too loosely. It may not match the interior color. Number 10, check for a well-defined line or watermark or for musty odors resulting from mildew. Well, a lot of cars have mildew because the evaporator core is a breeding ground for microbial growth anyway. But it may be even more so when the car's been flooded. Number 11, ask the dealer directly if the car's been damaged by floodwater. Duh. That's a good point. So this information comes to you from yours truly and from the Better Business Bureau, bbb.org/scam tips. Your calls when I come back, 888-227-2546. Don't touch that dial. Recently, we had the chance to talk tires with John Robinson, Senior Communications Specialist for General Tire. Our topic was the use of nitrogen versus air. While there are definitely some benefits to using nitrogen, the conditions must be right. Let's hear from John.
Nitrogen is ideal if you can get the perfect conditions. If you're using nitrogen under not perfect conditions, then you're still going to have air and moisture inside that tire, and it's really not going to give you the benefit. So under ideal conditions, nitrogen is going to give you better balance and better performance for the tire. There's nothing wrong with air, but nitrogen, if you can get those ideal conditions, is really going to give you the utmost ultimate performance of those products.
General Tire's Grabber HTS 60 provides a perfect synergy of comfort, durability, and performance for your light truck or SUV. The Grabber HTS 60 Stability Tread features a flatter footprint, optimized tread pattern stiffness, and improved tread compound. The result is up to 25% more tread life than the original Grabber HTS. Learn more at GeneralTire.com. Time to go to our Car Clinic inbox. Jim in Indianapolis writes, Bobby, I have a 2010 Ford Explorer, and it's taking more than 10 minutes for the engine to warm up, whereas it used to take 6. I hear you guys talking about Stant thermostats. What makes them so special? Thanks, Jim. You probably heard me talking about the Superstat in particular. Superstat is a premium-grade thermostat that performs better and lasts longer. The Superstat features heavy-duty springs that help return it to a closed position to prevent cold running. A larger heat motor helps control engine temperature, while a heavier gauge steel housing gives it a high-end feel. Just hold one yourself, and you'll feel the difference. The Superstat is American-made and comes with a limited lifetime warranty. You definitely don't want to compromise when replacing your Explorer's engine thermostat. The Superstat helps maintain proper air-to-fuel ratio, which maximizes fuel economy, keeps tailpipe emissions in check, and provides optimal performance. Learn more about the Superstat at your local auto parts store or at stant.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Folks, we did have a power outage, and so we're checking the phones to make sure that they're all squared away. So if you dialed and didn't get an answer, then redial again. We do have a backup for the studio, but not for the plant. And the plant is some 15,000 square foot. It's really kind of cool. This studio, which is all digital, the floor weighs 10,000 pounds and is off grade so that it doesn't touch the actual cement that it's resting on. It's rubber mounted so that it has no vibration, and it's really the place to be. In fact, it's the place to be for any storms, I can tell you that right now. It's like bulletproof in here. Anything can be bulletproof. Miss Jan will take your calls at 888-227-2546. That's 227-2546. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by General Tire and the new G-Max AS05. Featuring smart technologies, the G-Max AS05 provides visual wear alerts, all-season performance, and longer tread life. It's truly a smarter tire for a smarter driver. You can learn more about the G-Max AS05 at GeneralTire.com. Okay, 888-227-2546. Gas prices, $2.63, up from this time last year in all 10 regions of the country, and down this time last week in all regions of the country. It is beyond me what drives gas prices, folks. I wish that I had that magic bullet understanding. I know that the hurricanes caused some spike in the prices, but from this time a week ago in all regions across the United States. And those regions, let me share with you those regions so you'll know, so that you'll be apprised. You have the East Coast, New England, Central Atlantic, Lower Atlantic, the Midwest, the Gulf Coast, the Rocky Mountain, the West Coast, and then the West Coast, less California. And those regions run the gamut from, let's see, $2.60 to $3.02. And that 302 is on the West Coast. But regardless, in all of the regions across the U.S., from this time last week, gas prices are down. However, having said that, as I said, from this time last year, they are up from where they were. So the trend is that gas costs more. And that's going to be interesting to see. And I'd like your opinion on this. How gas tax, and gas tax was passed an increase in 1993. And in 1993, there was a 4.5 cent gas tax added to the existing gas tax, which brought the total, and this is federal tax I'm speaking of now, and this tax money on every gallon of gas and diesel fuel that is sold across the United States, that money goes into the Highway Transportation Fund. What does that fund do? We repair highways with it, bridges, roads, beautification. There's a host of areas that money is used to shore up and to keep our roads and highways up to date. But what if your car doesn't use gasoline? What if it's an EV? How do you pay for, and think about this, and you say, well, that's the reason I got an electric car, so I don't have to buy gas. Well, you may be paying for a road tax on miles driven. And if you think about it, and here's a fact that you may not know about, is that for every dollar that is spent on road repair, we collectively as consumers and drivers of the roads save $6 in suspension-related repairs. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to reach out this week to Pete Ron. Pete Ron is the Secretary for the Department of Transportation in Maryland. Pete has been a guest on this program before. Actually, it was before he became the Department of Transportation for the state of Maryland. And I'm sure I have a great connection with Pete. I'm going to get him back on here. Next week, we're going to ask him to come on and share with us where that money goes, because there is a shortage, and understand this, a shortage of funds from the gas tax, and our highways are being funded, the repairs, by the general fund. There's X amount of dollars that's transferred from the general fund into the actual gas tax highway transportation fund. Now, that wasn't always the case. And this is an interesting point. And I made this, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, we talked about this because we were talking about a gas tax increase. And I don't know if you'd be for it. I'd love to hear whether or not you would be okay with a gas tax increase. Now, I know the first thought is, no, I'm not paying any more taxes. But if that money, let's say it was, and I understand that it could be anywhere from 5, 10, or 15 cents, whatever the shortage would be. If that money went truly directly to the Highway Transportation Fund and made our roads safer and better. Now, I can tell you from a standpoint of localized here in my hometown, there's no doubt that the improvement that I've seen over the last year in our local roads here, including the main state highway in front of our automotive service shop here on Davis Highway, is absolutely over the top. I mean, I went home one night and I came back the next day and one of the lanes of the 4-lane was renewed. And I went home the next night and the next night, and it was amazing at the new black highway and new white markings, just a smoother, better highway. And then it really tuned in to me how bad other roads were. And lo and behold, we have in our local community some beautification and some new replacement of the roads, and that really is making our whole community better looking. Now, if we transfer that to the nation, of course, who's going to pay for that? Well, you have state tax that pays for state roads to be repaired, and you have, as I said, the federal tax. Now, here's a sticky point. In 1993, President Clinton signed into law a 4.5-cent tax increase for the gas tax. But in 1993, that money did not go into the Highway Transportation Fund. It went to the general fund to offset the deficit in the budget. That's fact. However, having said that, in 1997, President Clinton signed another law redirecting that 4.5 cents back into the Highway Transportation Fund. Having said all that, that figure still lies at 18.4 or 3 cents per gallon, and that was in 1993. No longer is that figure nowhere near enough money to handle the shortages of funds needed to build our highways, or to rebuild our highways, or to make our bridges safe. And I can tell you, on Amelia Island, in Jacksonville, there's one bridge that showed damage from Irma, and so they didn't use. Now I haven't gotten a report in the last 2 weeks, so this information is a couple of weeks ago. But they were having to use another route to go on into the Amelia Island because one of the main bridges had a support issue. So I'll check on that this week, and also Fabio, let's work this week to reach out to the Department of Transportation in Maryland and get Pete Ron if he's available, and let's get him on the air next week, because I want to make sure that, number one, the facts that and what I'm stating is correct, and I would love to hear what someone in the business is actually doing about and what they're doing. And Maryland sounds like a good idea, because that whole corridor is a lot of miles. I don't know how many. It'll be interesting. I'm going to ask him how many billion miles they drive a month there in Maryland. That'll be a good. Let's go to Washington, because Victor, who often comes on the program, has a comment about road taxes. Well, Victor, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'd love to hear your comment.
Yeah, thank you, Bobby. I was just going to say, in general, about taxes. Every time you raise taxes...
Okay, wait, Victor. I am not speaking in general terms here. I'm talking about a road tax. I'm talking about the fact that for every dollar spent, and not to cut you off, but I want to make sure that what you provide is relevant, because I'm in 1993, and the amount of gas taxes paid per gallon was 18.3 cents, and it's still that way today. And I can tell you there's nothing that's the same price today that it was in 1993. Even, and I don't want to get into a political, because I'm not a politician, I don't know anything about politics, but I can tell you the price of repairs in automobiles today compared to 1993, people want to shoot me when they come in and bring their cars in at what it cost. Now I'll turn the mic to you.
Well, okay, you raise a road tax. That tax goes directly on to the working person. You agree to that? And then,
well,
whenever
if the gas, we're talking about the gas tax here on per gallon of gas. I would be okay with an increase in and I hate to use the word tax. I'd be okay in an increase in the price of gasoline if I was assured that monies that was collected collectively, nationwide, would be directly put into repairs of the nation's highways, bridges, and beautification programs. I would be perfectly okay with that.
Yes, there's already a road tax, and the people are already paying the road tax. The people, and that tax is directly upon the working person. As soon as you raise the taxes, again, on the working person, you have to raise wages. And every time you raise wages, then everything we buy costs more, and that's inflation. Inflation means your dollar becomes more worthless, and around and around and around we go. And that's because we have a corrupt government that handles the money in a way, like you say,
But
the road tax doesn't repair the roads.
But Victor, now you're going exactly where I asked you not to go. You're going into a general statement about a corrupt government. I'm not qualified, nor am I interested in talking about the government. I'm talking about cars, and I know that for every dollar spent on Americans' roads, the suspension-related repairs would save $6. I know that because I drive a car and I work on cars every day of my life and have for 47 years. And I can tell you it is the roads and the owners that neglect that destroys automobiles, except for wear and tear. And wear and tear is caused by how you drive an automobile and on the roads on which you drive an automobile. I'll tell you what, you stay right there, because I'm open. And folks, I'd love to hear your comments on this very conversation. 888 Car Clinic. We recently performed a brake job on a 2012 Ford Escape, and while there are several critical parts to an effective, safe, and lasting brake job, you should always start with a thorough cleaning. Using a quality aerosol brake cleaner will ensure that the surfaces are clean and residue-free. Our choice is Berryman's Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner, the first VOC-compliant chlorinated brake cleaner available in over 20 years. Berryman's Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner is the strongest carb-compliant brake cleaner on the market. It effortlessly dissolves brake fluid, brake dust, grease, motor oil, power steering fluid, and other harmful contaminants. And be sure to thoroughly clean both sides of the brake rotor and all metal-to-metal mounting points before you apply the silicone brake lube to sliders and contact points. Use Berryman's Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner to remove any oily fingerprints or other contaminants from the friction material faces. If left untreated, these impurities could lead to poor brake performance and shorter brake life. Learn more about Berryman's Chlorinated Brake Parts Cleaner at berrymanproducts.com. That's berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis. This is really going to be interesting. And we're going to have some short conversations, and Victor's on the phone from Washington, and he has his opinions, but I'm going to ask Victor not to get into anything about corrupt governments or what have you, but we will talk about the current amount of taxes that are on each gallon of gas and diesel fuel. It's 18.4 cents on each gallon of gas. I'm not sure on the diesel, but I think it's a little more on the diesel fuel. And that tax is used to fund the Highway Transportation Fund, and the Highway Transportation Fund is incorporated and created to rebuild roads, repave roads, and do beautification of highways and bridges and those sorts of things. I know that Joe is on the phone from New York, so Joe, you stay there, and I'm going to be with you shortly. And Victor, just so that we can recap, in 1993, with no way or no formula to account for inflation, 18.3 or 4 cents was added. Well, actually, there were 4.5 cents. We brought it up to 18.4 cents per gallon, and that was added to gas tax. And that money didn't go for the gas tax; it went to the general fund. But in 1997, President Clinton signed another law redirecting those funds, and so today, 18.4 cents per gallon federal taxes are collected from every gallon of gas sold in the United States, and that money is used for beautification programs and to rebuild the highways, and that money is 1993 money, and the roads and the wages that are paid today are not 1993, just like automotive repairs that cost you an arm and a leg today are based on the cost of the vehicles, and yet the vehicles are safer, so we have fewer lives lost. And then one more point, then I'll turn the mic to you. There's one more point. If I bought an EV car, then I'm using the roads and not paying any taxes on the road use at all. So if we were to displace all of our internal combustion engines with battery-powered vehicles, there would be no gas sold, no money collected. Who would repair the roads, and where would that money come from? These are all valid points here, and I know some of it's political, and I don't really want to go there, but I'd love to hear your comments if you would be so kind as to not go political on me.
Okay, what you have to do then is, with the law that would raise the gas tax, you'd have to modify it so that it said that that money would have to go to the roads, and the roads only, repairing the roads. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that law would, and unless they modify that law with that provision, you just as well forget it.
Well, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you. But that would be the only methodology, and the only way that I would be okay with it is that if we're going to collect another 15 cents or 10 cents or 5 cents per gallon, that money would absolutely go, period, and exclusively for that. And to that end, Victor, U.S. Congressman Steve Womack, and our station in Rogers, Arkansas is KURM, the Colonel Womack, and he is the pillar of that community and so well known. And in fact, 4 of his children, the grown now, were at Desert Storm. And Steve Womack is a U.S. congressman. I've had a voice-to-voice conversation with Congressman Womack with regard to taxes collected and the monies and where it went. And he and I agreed that we would do our homework and get back, and we have not gotten back together yet, but I've done my homework, and next week I'm going to do some more homework because I'm going to ask Pete Ron to come in from the state. He's the Secretary for the Department of Transportation in Maryland. Now, the reason I chose him is because I had him as my guest before he went into before he became Secretary of the Department of Transportation for the state of Maryland. So I had a connection with him, although I've never met him. He's been on the air, and I feel like anytime I've had a conversation, then I have a connection. It's the way it's worked for years and years and years. So I would agree, and you and I are in agreement now, that there is a shortage of money. And just for your information, anywhere from $6 to $70 billion per year, and that $70 billion was for the year 2016 of general fund money was transferred to the highway transportation to fund the very repairs of the roads that we have today. Those are true numbers. So we don't need to do that. We don't need to do it. Now I don't. If you put that money back in the general fund, that's another. Where would it go if it didn't repair the roads? I'm not going there because that's way beyond my pay grade. But I will tell you this, I would be okay with tax if I was assured and it was ironclad, if anything can be ironclad in politics. I'd love to see that. I would be okay with a increase in gas tax. And again, it still doesn't address the EVs. And if you don't think EVs are going to become, France in 2030, no more new cars will be sold that are internal combustion engines, only EVs. Germany, I mean, you're going to see the transition, and it may be before it gets to any mass, I may be dead and gone. But the internal combustion engine and fossil fuel as we know it will be replaced with other fuels and or other methods to propel and to give us transportation. I'll turn the mic to you, and then after your comment, we're going to go to New York.
Okay, I just comment on this, that the road tax and all taxes depend upon the honesty and the righteousness of the people we have in office, because they make the laws, they put the wording into each law, and they're very intelligent people, but, just because a person is intelligent doesn't mean that they're honest. But so people have to be careful that they vote in good, honest people that know what truth is and that want to do what's right, rather than everybody voting their pocketbook, which is getting into the government and getting free money, which is why we're having the problem with the road tax and everything else. So I'll just say that. So honest policy is the basis of the road tax getting done properly and everything else.
Well, I agree with you, and to that end, honesty has really been the man in the mirror test that I take. Just like we won the Better Business Bureau. Now this is in 2 counties. I know this is a smaller thing as compared to the government, but each of us, collectively, we make up the government. So I will say this: my team was chosen as the Better Business Bureau Torch Award for Ethics in Business for 2017 over all businesses in both Escambia and Santa Rosa counties for our size business for 2017, and that is probably the biggest award we ever won and the most prestigious in my mind, and we earned it because we are a transparent company. And the fact that we're in automotive repair makes it even more astronomical. Hey, Victor, always great to talk with you. I appreciate the candor. Let's go to New York, take a call from Joe. Joe, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. You got a car question?
Yes, hi. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great. I've got a 99 Toyota Camry 4-cylinder. Check engine light came coming on a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
A regular mechanic diagnosed it real quick, kind of, and said to drive it for so many miles with the gas cap loose. So I did 257. And then the car, what it was doing was on the highway between 40 and 60 miles an hour, it was bucking and like spitting. And then when I would increase the gas, it would straighten out again.
Mm-hmm.
So I drove it 250,000 miles with the gas cap loose, no bucking. I tightened the gas cap because I was going to take it to my dealership and have a full scan done. And I said, try and bring it in when it's doing it. Drove it another 148 miles. It started bucking again, and that was yesterday. Monday is my appointment. The dealership did take a small scan, like codes 171, 2 lean bank 1, P1133, P1130. But obviously, Monday they're going to go deeper into it. Any suggestions?
Well, not until you get the report, till you get the information. The only way you can make an educated decision on repair is to let them dive into it and understand there's a difference between reading codes and reading and gaining access to the architecture of the electronics that creates those codes. And here's the difference. It's one thing to watch a house burning. It's another if you're a firefighter and you're in the house. So when you go to a parts store or you buy one of these handy-dandy $35 or whatever it costs, my industry's filled with offers from aftermarket companies, and I have issues with this, but some people are do-it-yourselfers and they read the codes. Well, so what? When you read a code, you're an outside person who's watching the house burn and have no clue as to what to do, nor will you go near it. Because when you read a code and you use a $35 scan tool to read the code, you're only visually reading the codes and you're not getting access into the architecture that created the codes. Therein lies the difference between a $35 hand reader and a $5,000 laptop software scan tool that we use within our business. And to this end, just yesterday, and Jonathan, who is our watchdog here and also captures all of the air checks and does a fantastic job. His father brought his car in yesterday with an evap code, and Johnny used our machines and did a lab scope, and this lab scope captured the culprit 2 seconds after, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds before. And the screens, whenever this erratic problem would occur, Johnny was able to capture that on a lab scope because he was able to get into the system and monitor the system. So I just wanted you to know, I know that, Joe, that's it's a technical route that I took, but that is what we do, and there is why one of the reasons that we have to invest in the equipment to properly test this like your Toyota. Now, let's back up. You said you drove it 256,000 or 256 miles, I think, with the gas cap off and did not have a problem. Did I not hear you correctly, or did you make that statement?
Yeah, it wasn't off. I just loosened it. So instead of tightening it 5 clicks,
right,
I didn't even tighten it 1 click.
Right.
I just switched it over a little to where it stopped, and it held fine,
Right, sure.
So I'm thinking vent canister valve,
Yeah,
who knows?
yeah, I'm with you. Now, understand this. A gas cap, and this is not true for every car, but all gas caps to date, well, it's not true for, I can't say all cars. Okay, the highest percentage of gas caps allow air into the tank.
Mm-hmm.
There's a check valve. But you can't, once you're air and you're in the tank, you can't get back out because it's a one-way door. It's a one-way check valve. And so if you leave the cap loose, the car knows it because the car has a pump that pressurizes the system. And on some, it uses vacuum. Toyotas have a very sophisticated system where they check the hoses from the front of the engine to the gas tank to make sure there's no vapors that leak into the atmosphere. That's what this is all about. So, but I will say this, having said that, I can take the gas cap off of my car and my car will flash the gas cap loose because I've actually left it loose before and I was surprised it said gas cap loose and I let it go for 2 days just to see what it would do. And sure enough, then it went to a check engine light on and the gas cap loose light went off. So the gas cap was like the first stage of the computer program that says, check your gas cap, because it may be that. It didn't know the gas cap was loose. It just knew that the system had a leak because it can't possibly know it's the gas cap because there's no monitor on the cap. It's just a one-way check valve. So I tightened it. I did not clear the codes. I wanted to see how long it would take before the light went out. And sure enough, after so many cold starts, then the light did complete itself. However, that code was still in my car and in the system, and I had to electronically cancel all of the codes in the car because there were many. So the short story for you, Joe, is to let that dealer, allow that dealer to test whatever they're going to do there with the evap system, and then give you an estimate on what your car needs to get it whole and healthy again, and that's what I would recommend. And we're out of time. I know that Mary is calling from Texas, and Joe, thank you so much for your call. That's all the time that we have for this hour's broadcast. So Mary, I would much appreciate if you call back from Texas next week before the ring of the bell, because the bell is about to ring on the time that we have left over. So again, from 10 till noon Eastern time, every Saturday, I'm here. I'm here for you to share your calls. I will just share with you that cars are not made the way they once were. They're a lot better. And as a result, the manufacturers actually leave horsepower in the engine. And you can get this horsepower out if you reprogram your car. You can do this. It's called dial-in horsepower with a Super Chip Flash Pack. Check it out at superchips.com. Next week, same time, same station. You'll love us.
Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Need auto parts? Get them with a click at the new O'ReillyAuto.com. Shop online and we'll ship the order to your home, or you can pick it up for free at the O'Reilly Auto Parts store nearest you. The choice is yours. Shop the way that's convenient for you and get the exact parts you need to get the job done right. O'ReillyAuto.com. Parts for your car wherever you are.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Looking for a new career path? Interested in serving your local community? Become a teacher. American Board for the Certification of Teacher Excellence can help you earn a teaching certificate in a year or less. American Board's online program allows you to set your own schedule for a price that fits your budget. Visit www.americanboard.org. That's americanboard.org for more information on how you can become a teacher.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. You're a